again to Let's Start Cooking. I'm Wayne, and on today's episode, we're gonna make banana bread, but not just normal banana bread. We're gonna make a cream cheese banana bread. But before we do, I'd like to take this time to ask that you please consider subscribing to the channel, like and share our videos, and leave us a comment. Say hi, just let us know how we're doing. So the first thing that we're gonna wanna do with this recipe is we're gonna wanna mix all the dry ingredients together. So what I have here, and I will have all the ingredients in our description as usual. I have our flour. We're gonna take our salt. We're just gonna take our cinnamon. And this one we have baking soda. We're not gonna be using baking powder. And we're just gonna mix this up just a little bit. Again, we always do this just to make sure that when we dump it in, we don't just get a hard lump somewhere in our batter. This way we know it's mixed up pretty well. And what we're gonna do, all this stuff now that you see on the table, all the stuff in our ingredients, is all at room temperature. We let this stuff warm up. It's a lot easier to mix. So we just set this to the side. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our sugar, and we're just gonna put it right in our bowl. And we're gonna take 1 cup of our softened butter. And we're just gonna let that go right in. And what we want to do with this is we're going to get this mixed up so it's nice and soft. We'll start out slow, but we'll get this mixed up and you'll see it'll start to change colors a little bit. It'll get nice and fluffy for us. Once we get it moving, we can move it a little bit faster to move it off the beater. And make sure when you're doing this that you scrape your bowl down and scrape the bottom of it so you make sure you get all this mixed up. Once we get it to this point, we're just going to shut it off. We're going to scrape down our sides. You're going to scrape down the bottom and just make sure that there's nothing laying on the bottom. And it moves around fairly easy, so we don't have to worry too much about it. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take our eggs. And we're going to add We're going to add 1 egg at a time. And we're going to let that slowly mix in. We don't want to mix the heck out of this now. And you'll notice it. You'll notice that the bright yellow from the egg will disappear. You know it's starting to get mixed in. And again, the reason that we do one at a time and not just add everything in is because we want to make sure everything gets incorporated first before we put a lot of stuff in here. So we'll put this one up a little bit. That way you can see what I'm doing. We're just going to add this one in. And just be careful, like I said, if you get, like I have one here that it didn't want to crack well, but just be careful of the eggshells. We're just going to lay this down. We'll do the same thing. We'll let this mix in pretty well. And we're still going to want to check the sides and we're still going to want to check the bottom. We want to make sure nothing lays on the bottom of this. Once we get the eggs added in, we're just going to shut this off. And now we're going to add in our vanilla. Just let this mix just a little bit. We don't have to go real nuts with this. Just going to add a little bit. And now what we're going to do, we're going to scrape down our sides once more. just to make sure. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to add in our sour cream and our bananas. Now the sour cream we can add in just right away. But the bananas, you're going to want to add them one at a time. You don't want to just throw all those bananas in at one time. And make sure that your bananas are ripe. I like to take them, I just like to break them up just a little bit. You can cut them up with a knife if you want, but we're gonna just make these just like that. And we're gonna do one at a time, on slow, till we get that mixed in. And this is why I said make sure they're nice and ripe, because we want these to break up. We don't want big chunks of banana. And then once we get it to the point where it's nice and broken up, we're just going to keep adding until we get all our bananas added in. And this is about the time you're going to want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Now, if you get smaller pieces, that's fine. You're not going to mash this up completely, which is fine. You just don't want pieces like that being in your banana bread. But we're just going to add these one at a time to allow them to break up a little bit before we keep adding more into it. And once we get this mixed in, what we're going to do is we're going to set this aside. Because we have one more ingredient that we have to work with before we actually can pour this into our bread pan. Once we get this mixed up the way we want, what we're going to do is we're just going to take this off. Now, I'm switching out. You don't have to. It makes it a little bit easier for me. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to add our flour to our mixture. And again, we're just going to take this and just add it right in. You don't have to do it a little at a time. I'm just going to add a little bit different beater here for me. We're going to start out slow as normal. And all we want to do now is just incorporate everything together. This is what's going to make our batter for our banana bread. And again, we're going to want to scrape the bottom. We're going to want to scrape the sides. So just make sure you get all the sides scraped off. You can always do this too once you get the beater and everything off of it. You can just make sure before you pour it into your pan that everything is nice and scraped off and you don't have nothing stuck to the bottom. The last thing you want to do is go dumping this into your bread pan, and all of a sudden the last thing that falls out is a lump of flour. So we just mix this up a little bit more. Now that we have this done, we're going to take everything out. We're just going to clean everything off because what we want to do now is we have to soften up our cream cheese. So you can do it one of two ways. You can clean everything out if you want, put it back on here, and we're going to beat this cream cheese to make it nice and soft. Now if you have a hand mixer, and you don't want to have to go all through this, you can just take another bowl, put your cream cheese in it, use a hand mixer, and beat it until it's nice and smooth. Alright, all we're going to do is we're just going to take, we have 4 ounces of cream cheese. And like I said, this is soft, but we want to make it nice and smooth and creamy. So I'm just going to take a normal hand mixer. This might be a little bit loud. So I'll mix this up, I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'll show you when we're done. And as you can see, we whipped this up now. We got a nice smooth consistency. It's nice and soft for us. So now once we have that done, we're just going to take a regular bread loaf pan, and I did use spray on this, but you can use butter and flour if you want. You can use whatever you want. It is a non-stick pan, but I always like treating it a little bit. So we're going to take half of our batter now. And just like that, our oven is ready. We're going to take half this batter. And we're going to smooth this out in the pan. And once we get that done, we're going to take our cream cheese. And this might be a little bit of a pain, because obviously the batter is a lot softer than the cream cheese is. But what you want to do, carefully if you can, is we're just going to take this, and we're going to lay it right down, and we're just going to smooth it the best we can. Now if you can't get it completely smooth, it's no big deal. But we're just going to go the best we can and try to get a layer of this. Stop it. And as you can see, it's not really easy to pull cream cheese across a soft batter, but you just want to be easy. And we're not going to get every inch coated, but we just want a nice little layer if we can. And it doesn't matter if it mixes together, it's going to mix together anyway. We just want to pull it the best we can, as far as we can. And just be patient, and just don't press really hard, because you'll press it right down into the batter. But once you get a little bit, now again, if you really like cream cheese, you can always use more. But we're just going to move it around best we can. Once we get our cream cheese in there, we're going to take the rest of our batter, and we're just going to put it right over the top. We're just going to help this go to the corner. Now we're not going to, again, we're not pressing, but we're going to smooth this out the best we can. And instead of pounding it, we're just going to shake it to get it to smooth out. Because a lot of times what happens is if you're making an apple cake or banana bread or anything that has chunks in it, whether they're small, even raisins, if you go trying to knock the air out of it, you're going to knock all the stuff down at the bottom, and you don't want to do that. So what we did was just went like that, and we're going to get this in the oven, and we're going to bake this for about 60 to 70 minutes, or until a toothpick goes all the way in and comes out clean. So we'll get this in the oven, and I'll see you, for you, about 30 seconds, for me about 60 minutes. All right, we are back. We've had this in the oven for about 60 minutes it took us, and we've left it cool down. It's still a little warm, so we're going to try to be a little careful and slice this. But all we did was we just put some banana on top of it, and we let it cool. So now all we're going to do is try to slice this. Now when you're making this, just be very careful, because with banana bread, zucchini, anything like that, if for some reason it's always really soft. So you want to be really careful when you slice it. And as you can see, we have the cream cheese inside our banana bread. You can smell the banana. You can smell just the aroma of this bread is so, you can smell the spices. Even though we didn't use a lot, you can really smell the cinnamon. You can smell the vanilla. So let's see how it tastes. right away the first thing you get is that hit of banana. I mean, it's there, it's nice and moist, and obviously it's still warm, but it's really nice and moist. Let's see if we can get a little bit of the cream cheese with this. The cream cheese soaks up the flavor from the banana, so you're not eating just like cream cheese on a bagel. It has that banana flavor, it's nice and soft. It's everything you would expect from banana bread with a little bit of a kick. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you'll like and share, and I hope you'll see us next week.